even before I started doing the actual Toyaholic series, I had this particular topic in mind. I even acquired a couple of pieces to shoot it and do it properly. I think I possibly touched on one of the details in this in a previous video, but I didn't do the whole full-blown thing, for which I acquired some pieces. And now, even though I'm knee-deep in a couple of other video projects, a really germane piece of information just came to light from a surprising source. So, I'm doing this now. Die-cast Star Wars vehicles from the 70s. Actually, from 1978, it says on the inside of this solar panel. This is the TIE Fighter, and I remember seeing these at a shop back in my parents' town called Shoals Variety and Gifts. They had like mainly a florist shop, but they also had toys. And I probably got some there. Later on, there was a store, and I think it was here in Mississippi. I just remember that the toy aisle kind of went in a U shape in this one corner, and that's where I kept seeing the Star Destroyer. So I didn't have a complete collection of these at first. I had the X-Wing, I had the Land Speeder, I had the TIE Fighter, I had the Star Destroyer. Much later in life, then I collected the other pieces, and I think I've talked about the TIE Bomber in a video already. The first version of the TIE Fighter, or the only version that I knew about at first, was this one. It's actually seen in a shot of my Whoever Dies with the Most Toys Wins, and had this little pilot piece that plugged into the back. Now, on the actual movie model, there's no projection there. That's a miniature version of the tacked-on battery compartment for the vehicle that the action figures went in. So on this, they didn't need that battery pack, but they kept that design when they scaled it down, and that's how you remove the pilot. And the pilot is not a TIE Fighter pilot because, well, they hadn't designed that character yet for Star Wars figures. They decided instead to use Darth Vader. He's normally glued in there, but this one actually, the glue line broke, so mine's removable. Yours may not be. And I used to play with this guy inside the claw of Maskatron from the $6 Million Man, which I think is a toy that I had that predated Star Wars, possibly. So to me, it was a gigantic robot, and this little piece could nestle in that one claw arm of his and be the pilot. Also, I could imagine him at a slightly smaller scale being piloted by a Jawa inside the compartment in his back, the hatch that opened up to hide his mask. Got to find that toy. I think I know an area to start searching, but anyway. So I had the white TIE Fighter, and I started looking for a few other pieces to sort of expand my Kenner Star Wars collection and complete it. One day I'm at the comic book shop just down the street from the campus. I think I was dating my first wife at the time. And I looked through a bin of stuff, and I found this guy. A gray version of the pilot piece. Darth Vader again, but everything is molded in this color of gray. I knew what I was looking at because it's the identical piece from the white TIE Fighter. But I didn't own the Darth Vader TIE Fighter, which was in gray. And I thought, how much? You know, and the guy's like, yeah, we'll say he said $1. Might have been $0.25. I got it really, really cheap. And my girlfriend / now ex-wife was like, why do you want that? It's not complete. And I was like, yeah, but this would be the hardest piece of it to find. I can probably find the rest of it pretty cheap. Literally, the next issue of Toy Fair magazine, Toy Shop, whatever it was called, this periodical that people would list their toys for sale in, arrives, and I'm flipping through, and somebody was selling dirt cheap the rest of the Darth Vader TIE Fighter. So I actually had the one piece first, and the other three within a fortnight, because I had to stick it in the mail it to them, then mail me the item. So there's, you know, a little bit of transit time involved. It's not like eBay purchases these days. And I've always called that little technique there straighting to an inside draw, because I picked the one first, and I just happened to get everything else I needed. So that would be the story unto itself. The other interesting thing about the Kenner diecast Darth Vader TIE Fighter is a few years ago, maybe 2 at the most, I learned that in the Dark Crystal, which came out in 1982, the scientist Skeksis has a mechanical eye. And someone posted a photo of what the puppet looked like, and a close-up of it revealed that his eye was a Darth Vader TIE fighter. Except, the guy who originally made the collage, and I think his name was Russ Vick, he used a picture of the white TIE fighter instead. And I was like, that's not the white TIE fighter. That's the gray TIE fighter. That's the Vader cockpit. But he showed a carded white TIE fighter in there by mistake. And I'd seen this shared several times, several places. It's like one of those hydras of misinformation. Every time you think you've cut the head off, several more grow back. These misinformations are very hard to squash once they're out there in the Ethernet. But I said, look, you can even see the rod at the tips. They kept that in, and that was part of the swivel for him. They had little brackets around these black pieces that go into the wing on the Vader tie. And I kept saying, but the white TIE fighter was different. It had a post on the wing that went into a hole in the cockpit body. I specifically remember tightening the little, crimping down the edges here with pliers as a kid. Why did I do that? Because it said to do that in the instructions that came with the toy. So very clearly I knew from the photo that the one with the black pieces on the tips couldn't be the white TIE fighter, or so I thought, because then somebody commented back when I said that about the design being different, and they said, oh, you must have the first series of TIE fighter, because they changed the design. I was like, they did what? Never knew. Never knew that the white TIE fighter had a second version, sturdier than that one that they told you to crimp, where a white post came out the end and went into a hole in the wing. Wing with a post, wing with a hole. I wonder. I've never tried this. It's a little skinny TIE fighter there. So I was like, well, now I've got to have one of those for my collection because completism. And I actually wound up getting a couple of them, but neither of them had, what's the hardest piece to find, we said? Neither of them had the pilot. So let's put the Vader pilot inside the second version of the white TIE fighter. Cool. All right, that's the first time I've actually put that in there. So then I was a little bit flummoxed. I was like, Occam's razor still tells me that they took the off-the-shelf gray one with the black posts and used it for the puppet. Because what are the odds that they would buy a white one, paint that post black, paint this white part gray, and perfectly match the other off-the-shelf toy? It's not going to happen that way. This is clearly what they had used, right? So time goes on, and recently there was a post shared in a Dark Crystal group that I joined just to show off my movie that I made with the reaction figures. I'll try to put a link to that in the description down below. And I had joined, and I see posts from these folks, and they're very knowledgeable about all things Dark Crystal. And Bland Garrett shared a post by one of the puppeteers from the Dark Crystal who said that when they built the puppets for the scientist character, which was manipulated and voiced by Steve Whitmire, a rare instance in that film of the puppeteer doing the voice of the puppet. Even Jim Henson was redubbed as Jin. That they had built it using this Kenner TIE fighter as the eye for the scientist, and there was the puppet that Steve's hand is in doing the character. There was also a puppet that I believe Little People were used. I could be wrong about that. And it was a walk-around character for when they did a long shot of the characters moving around the castle and what have you. And so they had to build him twice, and this puppeteer posted a photo of the 4 leftover Darth Vader wings. Haha! Confirmation that this was the ship they used. And the puppeteer in question was the puppeteer of a different Skeksis character, the Skeksis Slave Master, and that puppeteer was Mike Quinn. And I'm like, I just met Mike Quinn a couple of weeks ago. I had no idea when we were standing there talking that he was the person that could corroborate my claim that it was a Darth Vader TIE fighter. So I was very ecstatic about that. And then Bland Garrett showed off a photo that was really impressive because he took one of these Vader cockpits to a show around 2017 or 2019 and met Steve Whitmire. And Steve Whitmire actually posed holding this up to his eye in the photo. I mean, how cool is that? Now, probably the reason that I wanted the scientist Skeksis from the Dark Crystal to be specifically having a Darth Vader TIE fighter cockpit as his eye is because in the Netflix prequel to the Dark Crystal, that character is no longer voiced by Steve Whitmire. It's now voiced by Mark Hamill. So yes, I wanted it to specifically be Darth Vader and not random TIE fighter pilot. Did you know that the Kenner die-cast white TIE fighter was one of the only pieces of merchandise considered accurate enough to be used as background models for a shot in Return of the Jedi? It's true. So I went over to Mike Quinn's original post and I made a comment and I liked it, and I saw that a guy named Kenny Durkin had posted a couple of extra photos of the scientist puppet that he had seen on display at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta. Now, I've been there. Took Debbie and the boys several years ago. Really enjoyed our day there. I did not see that particular Skeksis on display. I saw the Gartham Master on display when I was there. But I know they have other things that they don't publicly show. They were planning an expansion that has since happened, so I need to go back. But some of the stuff being foam rubber doesn't react well to being in lights, so they actually keep them in dark storage and only bring them out on occasion. But someone had seen the puppet and had taken a really great close-up of that Darth Vader cockpit eye, and that's when I noticed it's white on the inside. So, did they or didn't they use the white TIE fighter? I'm going to go with Mike Quinn because he saved these. I wonder who saved all the little Vaders, the 2 Vaders from that, because that's not, the light shines through it, so that's not in there in the puppet anymore. But did they say, oh, well, we're not getting enough light through there, paint the inside of that white so it shows up better on camera? I don't know. But that's my saga of the die-cast TIE fighters, or the TIE dies. Thanks for watching.